Eros Meets Agape is a bi-weekly heart-to-heart conversation about love, sex, marriage, and relationships. Everyone wants to love and be loved, but everyone does not know how to give and receive the love they both want and need. Intimacy and passion are essential, yet mean nothing if there isn't unconditional and sacrificial love, which is the foundation for any lasting relationship. Dr. Saudia is a licensed marriage and family therapist and minister. Let's listen in as she shares how to create healthier and happier relationships.
Hey there, family. Welcome to another episode of the Eros Meets Agape podcast. And I have a question for you. Have you ever been in a situation where you are no longer with the person that you have been dating, engaged to, or married, but because of the love that you had developed over the months or years you were with this person, you also developed love for maybe one or a few or all of their family members? What do you do in those situations when you're no longer with that person? And even though you're no longer with them, you miss and really want to stay connected to the family members that you've come to know and love as your own family. What do you do? We don't really have an instruction manual for that, right? So how do we navigate such a difficult situation? Well, I'm going to tell you how. That's what we're talking about in today's episode. So you know what to do. Let's head on over into the classroom. I will see you in a second. All right, family, guess what? It is November. That means the holidays are upon us. They are literally just around the corner. And that means that November is also Movember. Well, you're probably like, what the heck does that mean? Movember is a nice way of saying that we need to be on the move, being aware, because we are heading into the season where sadness and depression tends to take over in some cases with people. And we want to make certain that we are staying on top of things, being informed and being aware, as well as checking in on our loved ones, just because, no reason at all, just checking in and make certain that they're okay. Doesn't mean that they had to have had a history of sadness or depression. It simply just means that life is tough. It's hard out here, y'all. Okay? I'm telling you from experience. And people who know you to be strong doesn't mean that you don't need help and love and people checking in on you. And those that aren't as strong, well, we know that they definitely need our love, care, and attention. So stay on the move. Send out a text, a just because text, where you're really just saying, hey, I don't want anything, don't need anything, not trying to spill any tea. I'm really just checking in just because. Don't know if you need anything, but just wanting to see how you are and hoping you're well. But if you're not, let me know what you need from me and in any way that I can help. I'm telling you, a text such as this will do wonders, and it will also show that you care and love your loved one. So know that it is Movember. Get on the move. Check in on your loved ones with a just because text. Very simple, very easy to do. Literally, you can copy and paste it. It doesn't mean that you're insincere. You're sending out mass text. Don't do that because that doesn't show love. Copy and paste it if you have to, but just don't send it in a mass text. But definitely make certain that you check in on your loved ones, okay? It's necessary, and they'll appreciate you and love you even the more for it. All right, so today I'm asking the question, what do we do in situations where we are no longer with a significant other and we yet have developed a wonderful relationship with one or all of their family members, and we want to keep as well as honor that relationship without necessarily being in a relationship with our ex? How do we go about doing that? Or should we even do that to begin with? I mean, let's just be honest. When we end a relationship or a marriage, it's very challenging emotionally as well as mentally on us, and it takes a lot out of us. We don't know that new path and what we should do or shouldn't do. We don't know the boundary lines that should be set because we've never been down this road before. But in the same sense, the loved one that we've come to develop a wonderful relationship with, they have done nothing to us, absolutely nothing at all. So how do we handle that? a person or persons that we've grown to love and have a great relationship with, great times with, great conversations with, do we stop talking to them because the relationship with their family member has now ended? Well, I think everyone has the opportunity to answer that question and say yay or nay. However, for those that have already said, no, I don't need a relationship with those individuals, I guess it's pretty apparent that I probably wouldn't be speaking to that group of people. And I'm probably talking to those that are wondering, hey, how can I, or even should I continue that relationship? So I'm going to be honest, I've been there before. Now, I'm fortunate in the fact that whether it's friends that I'm no longer connected to or exes that I'm no longer in a relationship with, I've developed friendships, or should I say also relationships with their family members. And when I was younger, it was extremely hard to say goodbye to their family members because they haven't done anything to me. I enjoyed the ways in which that friendship or relationship, when I say relationship, not romantically, you all, just the relationship that I developed with me, maybe, their sibling or, their parent. All in all, you wonder, how do I handle this? And when I was younger, I didn't have the wherewithal to know what to do. And if I'm being honest, I've had friendships that we just grew apart. Nothing really happened per se. We just had different visions, and their vision didn't really match up with mine and how I wanted my future to be. So we parted ways. And it wasn't that I didn't like them or even that I didn't miss them. I did. We just didn't have the same visions. And because of that, let's just face facts. When you don't have the same vision with someone, that's called division, where you're seeing things differently. There's no way that two people can go the same path that they don't see the same way. And so that's why those friendships had ended. But I didn't miss their family members. I love my friends' family members, and I'm fortunate in the aspect that they've always welcomed me in. But when I was younger, I didn't know how to handle that. And I would say when I'm younger, meaning in my 20s, I didn't really know how to handle that. So I also said goodbye to those relationships. However, when I had a relationship to end in my 30s, well, at that time, I learned how to handle things a little bit differently. So I'm going to share with you some tips as well as information that will help you to make your own decision as to what is the best route to navigate if you are in a similar situation with an ex or maybe even a friend. And I say professionally as well as personally because I've been there. And the great thing about this podcast is that I can talk personally as well as professionally. And y'all know I like to give my own personal examples so it works out that I can use that and I don't never have to go into the area of talking about clients because that's client privilege and we can't know that information. So that being said, let's just go ahead and dig in. So let's look at the various types of relationships so we can break them apart into categories. So I'm going to talk about 3 different types of relationships. Those that are married with children, and then those that are married but didn't have children, and then those that were just dating or engaged, never got married, or as well, never had children. Okay. So with that being said, for those that are married with children, I think, and this is just professionally here, I think that it is important for you to always keep a united front with your children. One of the great things personally that I experienced in my own family, meaning with my parents as well as with my cousin's parents, was that divorce just meant that the person, meaning the other non-residential parent, they didn't live with you anymore. It didn't mean that they were no longer in your life. And as a result, that means that all the other family members that come along with them, there's still access. So case in point, my grandmother, up until the day that she passed away and went on to be with the Lord, still spoke to my mom, lived with my mom, regularly talked to my mom, had a relationship with my mom, had a relationship with my cousin on my mother's side. My grandmother did not care that my parents were divorced. She was like, okay, that happened for you all, but I still love these kids and I'm still going to be in these kids' lives. And she was very close, meaning, a good relationship with my maternal uncle. So my grandmother, thus from my father's side, was still very close to a number of aunts and uncles on my mom's side, as well as with my mom. That didn't change just because my parents got divorced. And also, I have a cousin, and my cousin, even though their parents were divorced, their mom always let their grandmother, even their dad, come over for the holidays because they were a small family. And she believed in, just because we're divorced, these kids still have a family and they need to see a united family front. I love that about that. Them meaning that, that they were able to keep the kids in mind. When I say kids, I mean as in adults too. This happened all the way, literally, I want to say until their grandmother passed away, but their dad still hangs out with their mom. Now, of course, over time, we heal, we emotionally move on, as well as relationally move on, and it allows us to be able to make healthier decisions. But professionally, you always want to keep your children first, meaning their interests, their well-being first. And for children, divorce is challenging. It is difficult. It's not something that kids should have to experience, but unfortunately it happens. But if it does happen, if you keep the main thing, which means if you now keep your children first and at the forefront of your mind in all the things that you do, it doesn't have to be a painful process. It can be a painless process. So what do I mean by that? That means that you and the ex, you work together, all right? And as in working together, it means that you can do things together as one unit. Yeah, you can have other relationships and include those people in. And if they're mature, hopefully they are. Please date mature people that can be okay with you hanging out with your ex and as one family unit for the betterment of your child. Please do that, because that is healthy for your child. It teaches them that even though a relationship may be exhausted and it can end, it does not mean that love has to also be deceased as well. Love, and here's what's challenging for some people. Love can sometimes to people mean that while I'm with you, that's how I show love. But no, you can also continue to show love even though you're not with a person. So for those that are married with children, I would say that professionally, it is important to maintain, of course, a friendship with your ex, but to also continue that family unit, because that is what is familiar to their child and it's important to them. Now, don't get me wrong. There are boundaries that should most definitely put in place, and you need to decide what is healthy for you in that moment, meaning if you are newly divorced. And then it will change, of course, as you heal and as time goes by and new relationships develop. So you'll have to revisit what it should look like or what it can look like based on the boundaries and where you are in that place and point in time. So most definitely for couples that are no longer together but have children, that one, in my opinion, personally as well as professionally, should be a no-brainer. You have children for the betterment of the child. It shouldn't be, separate families now. Doesn't mean you all have to vacation together like, Will Smith's wife, what's her name? Jada Pinkett and his ex, Cherie Zampino. Doesn't mean that you have to be like them where you are vacationing together. Maybe nice, would be very emotionally healthy, but it doesn't mean you have to go to that extreme. It simply means that you should get along together. And in getting along together, it means that you are showing your child that even though the relationship has ended, it doesn't mean that love particularly has to end. It just means that love now looks a different way. And if I'm being honest, if we're going according to the Bible, love really never ends, guys. I mean, what does scripture say? Love never fails. So even though it has maybe morphed in how it looks, it hasn't failed because you're showing your children a different way of how your family is choosing to be with one another, but yet you're still showing up with love and allowing one another to interact with ex-in-laws. And that means that it's okay for you to hang out with your ex-in-law. Now, of course, I said boundaries should always be in play, meaning that you need to know what is going to be good for you or not, because guess what? You may show up at your ex-in-law's house or gathering or event, and your ex is there with the person that they are now seeing. And if you aren't emotionally healed from that, that could be a challenging experience. So you want to be careful. So when I say setting boundaries, you have to consider time and how you are healing, or if you are or are not healing. You also have to identify boundaries with regard to what you feel is appropriate, what is not appropriate. Should there be times where, you don't interact, meaning the holidays? Will you allow that in-law, or should I say ex-in-law, to have time with their family member without you being there, without them having to really play referee to determine, well, you can come at this time and then they're going to come at that time? That could be taxing on them as well. So you want to consider the family, the individuals, the relationships, and the people. You know them, you know how they are and their temperament, what would or would not work best. So you want to keep all those things in mind. The Bible says at all times to be at peace with people. And so you want to always maintain peace while you are also protecting your peace. That means you are creating healthy boundaries for you while being respectful of other people. So if I am identifying those that are married with children, of course, you want to make certain that your kids are able to interact with both sides of the family without problem. And if you have a relationship with your ex-in-laws, then by all means, you're going to see them for the rest of life because you two share a child together. So therefore, seeing their family members should not be overwhelming. It should not be challenging. And it doesn't have to be. We don't have to make it that way. There's nowhere that it says that once you get a divorce, that you no longer need to communicate with your ex-in-laws. Now, I get it. Some people are like, whew, finally, I'm rid of those people. Okay, I'm sorry about that. But there are many people that don't feel like that, and they love their ex-sister-in-law or ex-brother-in-law or ex-uncle-in-law or ex-grandmother-in-law or ex-father-in-law, whatever you pick, right? You want to just make certain that you remain mindful of each individual, right? Because that person will, of course, be true to their family member while also being respectful to you, but you want to make certain that you consider everyone and you actually have a chance to talk about it. And I'll get back to that in a minute, but let me move on to point number 2. So you also have those that were married but don't have any kids. And then you have those that were either dating or engaged and are no longer with that person. So we'll put them together in a group. So whether you have been married to someone and you don't have children with them and you're no longer married, or you were dating for a particular amount of time, or engaged to this person and you're no longer together, what do you do in those situations? Because in the other example, it was the children that really kept you united with an individual. But when you don't have kids, you're not required to see your ex, right? So now that means there's space involved. There's time in between you possibly seeing an ex, and things may get a little dicey because when children are involved, everyone knows, okay, we need to think about the kids. We need to put the kids first. And that makes clear sense. There's nothing wrong with that. But when there aren't kids involved, then people start thinking, well, wait a minute, I don't really have to deal with you. So in these cases, you need to know the people that you are involved with. You need to know what it is that they would want. Now, they may be very direct, or you may be very direct, and you may have a conversation and you all discuss, well, how do we now handle this friendship that we've developed with one another and still be respectful of my family member, or being respectful of your ex? Because it could be a little challenging going to your mom's house and your ex is sitting there, or even challenging going to a family member's house and your ex is coming over while you're there. There's no reason for you two to be connected anymore when you've made a decision to not be together anymore, but now you're seeing one another. And let's face it, if you broke up, more than likely you don't want to see each other anymore. But now I have to see you possibly at family functions, or I have to see you, in places where, our family gathers together at one person's house or another. So you want to be mindful of this. Now, if you have a relationship with your ex to the place where they know you have developed a close relationship with one of their family members, then more than likely they already are aware that you may continue talking to one another. I'm not saying you have to get permission, but you may want to inquire about it. I know, then I wasn't married to this individual, but one of my exes, I had a very close relationship with his mother, and he knew that when we were together. So therefore, when we broke up, I still was in communication with her. Now, I never asked his opinion on the matter. I never even asked his permission on the matter. But one thing that I made certain that I did the entire time, whether when we were together as well as when we weren't, I always separated those relationships, meaning when he and I were together, I never talked to her about him or our relationship. And I must say, y'all, that was pretty wise for somebody who was a teenager. I was young. I was in my late teens, early 20s. So that was some good wisdom that I didn't know about, but Jesus just gave me, and I didn't know I was getting a jewel and a gem from him at that moment. But it was very healthy that took place. So while we were dating, I never discussed him nor my relationship with him with her, nor when I was with him did I discuss my friendship about her. And it allowed me to keep things separate. And I did that solely for the purpose of making it clear that my relationship with her was based on who she was as a person, not on the fact that she was his mom. Because let's just be honest. We as women, we sometimes will feel as if, oh, if I get in good with his mom, I'm a shoo-in. And that is further from the truth. People will run from you because of that. That is not a gem that people are like, oh, she's cool, my mom. Oh, she's extra sexy because of that. That's not how that works. Guys don't look at it that way. And she and I had very similar personalities, and she was really funny. Y'all know I love me some funny people. So that's why she and I clicked. But on top of that, he was able to respect that. And even though that relationship ended, he never asked me questions about our relationship. He just knew we stayed connected. And of course, he went on to have other relationships. I never asked her about those relationships, never did anything. And so because of that, I think things were able to stay healthy, and there was never a problem, whereas he had to ask me, why are you still talking to my mom, or stop talking to my mom? Now, that's never had to happen. So there was never an issue because of that. And I believe it was because early on, I just established healthy boundaries. So I'm saying that for the purpose of saying, if you do not share children with someone, of course, you don't have a relationship, meaning you don't have the reason to continue a relationship with that family member if you don't have children. It's clearly you have a closeness with them that you want to keep and honor. So keep in mind that you want to be respectful of the other person, meaning they're going to move on, have a relationship, fall in love with someone else, get married, have kids, and you want to be mindful. How does it look if I show up at a function because I am friends with this family member, yet this family member is going to invite my ex and possibly their new significant other or spouse? How would that make everyone feel? Would it be awkward? So you want to keep that in mind. So for me, in my example, I wasn't trying to show up to any functions where my ex could possibly be with his new girlfriend. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't particularly invited either. Now, there were a couple of occasions where my ex's mother asked me to come over her functions. One was I believe it was a Thanksgiving holiday, but he and I were together. So that was okay. And then another function, I want to say it was her anniversary, and it was a significant milestone anniversary. And she got a new ring there, and that new ring was bomb too. But she asked me to come over. I literally was on the phone when she asked me, and just like quiet for a minute or two. And she was like, Sadia, you hear me? And I was like, oh yeah, right. Because I'm in the back of my mind thinking like, well, you're inviting your kids, which means you're inviting my ex. He and I do not communicate, so I don't know if this is going to be a good decision or not. But in that moment, I paused and just said to myself, she's my friend and she wants me there. I understand that he's my ex. He may not want me there. All right, what do I do? And in that moment, for me, I chose to honor the request of my friend, not as if she was going, just basically just take over with regard to, well, son, this is what I'm doing. It's my house, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that was even the case or even necessary. I just believe that because she knew us, that she believed it would be okay. Or she may have even got his permission. I don't even know anything about that. And that's what made it okay for her to ask. I don't know. But it worked out. We were okay. It was a little bit awkward in the beginning because, like I said, we had not communicated. So me showing up was a little bit awkward at first, and we didn't have a full-blown night of communication. It wasn't like it was back on and popping because of that interaction. We respected one another's space. We respected the decision that we were not together. We respected the fact that he loved her and I loved her, and we both had our own relationship with her. So we honored that. And I think when it comes to deciding, do you say goodbye to a loved one that you've come to develop a relationship with, but is a family member of an ex? Do you say goodbye to them, or do you hang on to the relationship and continue it? I believe that both personally as well as professionally, that is going to be based on what you know about yourself and those involved. So what do I mean by that? I'm fortunate in the fact that the people that I was dealing with were mature, and we really honored one another indirectly. When I say indirectly, meaning we didn't need to have certain conversations. We didn't need to say certain things. We just were all mature in the fact that this is what is happening. He didn't live with his mother, so it wasn't like he was going to be over there every day, or I was going to be over there every day. I mean, I moved out of state and still was in communication with her. And I want to say some time had drifted off. When you're young, you go away to college, you do other stuff. But, I didn't talk to her regularly, but I continued communications with her. And then when I returned back to the state, I was able to talk to her one time, and then we started hanging out a little bit more than what we had been in prior years because I wasn't there or just was young and doing stuff. But the point I'm trying to make in saying that is I knew, and everyone in this situation knew who they were dealing with, and we knew the type of people that we were. So if you know you're dealing with messy people, then that may not be a good decision to hang on to such relationships, because it is going to cause someone pain somewhere along the way. Meaning messy people can create situations that are unhealthy, as well as just not safe, that are vengeful, that are unkind, and that can just seriously cause problems and not allow you to really respect the friendship that is there. That could be the new person coming along, the ex, unresolved issues, or it could be the family member that is a little heated that things didn't really work out, or heated that their family member is still friends with you. You have to consider the individuals that are in the situation. And so if you know you're dealing with people that are mature, people that are healthy mentally, then you can honestly be in a position to make the best decision for everyone, because you know how each person will act moving forward. Now, once you know that, then you're able to determine what your healthy boundaries will be. You'll be able to determine the time that you need in order to heal, or if, hey, you may never recover from this, so you need to sever ties at some point. Whatever that is, you're doing so being respectful of self as well as other. Now, you are most likely always going to be respectful of yourself, but I suggest it is important to be respectful of other people, not because they asked for, but because you would want to do to someone else, meaning you would want to do to someone else what would be done to you. So I'm not going to be unkind to someone else because I don't want someone being unkind to me. I don't want to be unfair to someone else and knowing that someone could be unfair to me. So in essence, you want to give what you want to receive. So you have to consider being respectful and being at peace, but in the same sense, being honest with that family member as well as that ex. So let me give you an example. This is hard, y'all. This was a hard one, but I had to do it. I had to go there. So I had mentioned that with an ex, I was very close with his mom. Well, there came a place and point in time where he and I had started communicating again. And during this communication time, whatever, nothing was solidified. It wasn't like, we went out and bought rings and we were getting married or anything like that. But, we were talking, right? Okay. So we were seeing each other. And without any notice, he ghosted me. Okay. It wasn't the best. It was really kind of hurtful, but it happened. Okay. I healed. Great job. But during the time when it was going down and he ghosted me, he ended up having a child with someone else and I found out about it. And in how it all happened, I was still friends with his mom. We were still talking and I was still hanging out, talking to her, spending, considerable time with her, doing things together, all while this was going on. Why? He and I weren't together. He had made his decision that he was being with someone else and he was starting a family with someone else. And as much as that was hurting me, that didn't affect my relationship with her because she and I were friends. And I didn't feel that, okay, I need to cut you off simply because of whatever went down with he and I. Well, one has nothing to do with the other and how I'm seeing it because it was a true friendship. But over time, I was having difficulties healing from that. And I remember one day I was visiting her. I mean, she's just being a natural grandparent, nothing wrong with it. She had talked about her grandkids all the time and she loved her grandkids. She loved her kids. She loved her family. So it was nothing odd about what was happening. But the moment that this happened, this is when I said, dang, I have to say goodbye. And I didn't want to do it because I truly valued her. I valued her time, her expertise, her wisdom, her humor. I just loved her. So I was visiting her and she was gathering some stuff that she was, I think she was I can't remember exactly because it's been a while, but she was, I believe, making a basket for her grandchild, which was the child of my ex. And she was so excited to share with me what was going on. And she was, showing me the stuff that she was putting together in her basket, something that she had done numerous times before that didn't affect me. But this time when she did it, I was hurt, not because of anything that she was doing, not because of anything that he had done, but because I was faced with the fact that he and I were not together. And I was hurting from that still. And because I had not fully healed, the wound was still a bit fresh. It was difficult to manage. And in that moment, I just thought about it and was like, you can't ask someone to not talk about their loved one or not talk about their child. Now, granted, she and I would never talk about him. That was something that we never did. So that was something I never had to come across. But I would never tell someone you can't talk about your grandchild, which is the seed of that person. And I thought about it and said, wow, this is the first of many moments. And right now, I am not fully healed from that. And if I'm being honest, this is a challenging pill to swallow, and I don't know when I will heal. And you can't put a friendship on hold and say, you know what, girl, I got to go get some healing done. So give me a few months and I'm gonna get back to you. You can't do that. But then as well, guess what? Because I had never talked to her about he and I, because she didn't even know that he and I had started seeing each other. When I say I kept stuff separate, right? Because if I'm truly in a friendship with her, I get it. I'm going to share with you what's happening in my life, but I also didn't want her to think, all right, I'm friends with you because I'm seeing him, right? Or I reconnected with you or spending more time with you because I'm seeing him. I didn't want that to ever cross her mind. So still never brought it up. And because that was our normal history, it was no big deal. So I got to thinking, and it was just like, wow, I can't tell her why I'm hurting about this, because to her knowledge, we broke up a long time ago and I should be okay emotionally. So I couldn't tell her that. But I later in another visit had to be honest with her because I needed some time to think about it, because I had to decide, what did I need in order to heal? Was this it? And then I needed to be honest, because if I really loved her and cared about her, I'm not just going to just drop off the face of the earth. That's not honoring the friendship the right way. It's one thing if you drop off the face of the earth after you've had numerous conversations and the person doesn't hear you and you feel like your words are falling on deaf ears. That's happened before too. And you just have to say goodbye your own way because you tried to talk to people and that didn't work. Well, that wasn't the case here. In this particular case, it was the fact that she just had no knowledge. And so I had to think of what would be the best way to handle it for everyone involved, so that I did not cause any drama. I, of course, was not going to mention anything to her. He was not an option for me to mention anything to. And I had to say, okay, I need to bow out gracefully. So for me, it was very hard, but I had to say goodbye. But I'm going to be honest. I didn't want her to question, well, why was I never going to come around again? Because if I'm going to disappear, you have to tell someone why. So for me, I had to be honest. That was the first time that I actually spoke to her about our relationship. And I had to let her know, okay, you aren't aware of this, but we've been seeing each other and I didn't want to say anything, which is why I've kept quiet about it. But I need to tell you that this is the reason why I can't now communicate with you, because this is still really hard for me to deal with. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back from this one. Now, in my mind, I knew I could come back emotionally. I knew I was going to heal. But of course, as my friend and being, face to face with her on a regular basis and her talking about her child, well, of course, you're going to talk about the child's family. So I knew I would heal. But, when you say goodbye to a relationship, you grieve the loss of missed future opportunities. So you grieve the loss of, oh, this would have been us, or these are things we would have done, or these were things that our kids would have done. And I was just being honest. I knew I would have been grieving that loss, and I knew I needed some time, and I didn't think it was fair for her to be on hold until I healed. And then what happens if I come back and then we're good, and then something is said, or I'm presented in a situation thinking I'm healed, and then find out I'm not. And then I have to say, oh, I'm sorry, that didn't work. I'm out again. You don't treat people like a swinging door. You're in and out, in and out. You have to make a decision. So I'm saying all that to say, from a personal standpoint, I believe you need to consider the individuals involved, but you also need to consider yourself. You know how you deal with emotions. You know how long it takes you to heal from being hurt from certain situations. As well, you know what you can and cannot handle. In essence, is what I'm trying to say. So in knowing yourself, you have to create the best boundaries that are feasible for you to help yourself to heal. And in helping yourself to heal, that means helping yourself to heal emotionally, because sometimes we think we're healed, but it's really still a bruise on the inside. And when it gets poked, that's when you learn it still hurts. And so you have to go back at it during work. And doing emotion work is challenging. is best, but it's challenging. It's very taxing in the moment because it pulls a lot on you, but in the same sense, it helps you to really be able to see where you are emotionally, how far you've come, as well as how far you have to go. And when we are healing emotionally, a lot of times we get caught up in, man, I'm not there yet. And we get so down on ourselves for not being there that we have to actually stop and pause and recognize how far I've actually come. And when we honor how far we've actually come, we're able to recognize the strides that we have made in healing, which lets us know that if we can make it from point A to where we are, then most definitely we can make it from where we are to the finish line and being totally healed. So when you are looking at a relationship that has ended, and you're trying to decide, do I continue and maintain this relationship with my ex's family or family members or family member? You want to make certain that you are respectful. You want to make certain that you are maintaining the peace. You also want to make certain that you give yourself time to heal, but you also want to identify and be aware of your own strengths, because you can use your strengths to help you to move forward in that friendship and being honest with that individual, or you can also honor your strengths and just remove yourself from the situation if there are no children involved, so that you can take the love, the time, and the value that you gain from that individual and take it as, just a memory to keep with you moving forward, knowing all that you got from the opportunity to love that person. You also got an opportunity to love and be loved by their family. And that's a bonus. It's great to be loved by someone that you're in a relationship with, but it's even better to be loved by their family members. And because you're being loved for being you, not because you're being loved for loving them. Those are two separate things. When you are able to be loved for being you, it means that, wow, you fit here. And we all feel good when we fit somewhere and we feel like we fit in. Doesn't mean that you always have to get along, you always have to agree, but it does mean that you value each other as individuals. And when you're able to honor your strengths, you can look at yourself to know how you can take your strength with you to move forward, honoring the memory of that relationship, even though you have to say goodbye to it because that romantic relationship is over, and you might not be able to handle a continued friendship with that family member, but you're able to use your strengths to move forward. But in the same sense, if you know the people involved and it's okay, you can still maintain a relationship, even though that relationship is severed with that significant other. You just have to know the individuals involved, but most importantly, you have to know yourself. What's the word that I want to say? Shakespeare? I don't know. It's English, y'all. It's from back in the day, from when I was in high school. To thine own self be true. Always remain true to yourself and you'll never go wrong. All right. So that is my personal as well as professional opinion. I think I spoke more on the professional side when I discussed kids, just because as a marriage and family therapist, I'm able to speak from a standpoint of what I know about research as well as counseling and what's best for children. Then I pretty much gave a personal standpoint when I gave the other options of when children were not involved. But at the end of the day, you have to know what is best for you, because you have to trust your gut. You never go wrong if you listen to your gut. I hope this message has served you well. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today's episode. And you know how I like to close out the show with our like it, love it, leave it tips. So what would be my like it tip for today? I like the fact that even though a relationship has ended, we still have the option of continuing well-formed relationships if it serves us well. Meaning that if it serves us and the other person well, just because the romance has ended doesn't mean that love has ended, because we get to continue a love relationship with family members that we have grown close to over the time of that relationship with that individual. Now, if I talk about my love it tip, I think I would say I love the fact that we can keep, should I say, the main thing, If children are involved, the main thing is the children, or should I say, are the children. And we're keeping them first because that's what's important when children are involved. You know, we have to make certain that we are maintaining their mental, emotional, as well as their spiritual strength and health. And if we remember that, then it's easy to make decisions. May not always be easy implementing them because our own will and emotions are involved. But if we keep them at the forefront, it's easy to keep putting one foot ahead of the other because that's our focus and that's what we have in mind. Now, if I'm thinking about it from a different standpoint without kids, I think the main thing is still the main thing. If kids aren't involved, then the main thing would be me and protecting my heart. Scripture says to guard our heart. If I guard my heart, then that means I need to use wisdom and apply wisdom daily. And therefore, I would need to think about the situation, but not think about it with my heart, because the heart can be a deceitful thing too. You know, it can kind of direct us the wrong way, right? Some people love with their heart on their sleeve, and that doesn't always work out, right? Because we are vulnerable and sometimes people take advantage of that. But if I am making certain that I am still being mindful of self and keeping the main thing, then I should still apply love, even though I'm not in a relationship with this person. That means I'm loving myself by being respectful to me and to the other members of that family or my ex, as well as I'm setting healthy boundaries and I'm maintaining peace. So I love that even though a relationship is ended, I can still maintain peace in having or not having that friendship to continue. I can still be respectful to me and the other people involved. We don't have to be nasty. We don't have to be immature. We don't even have to be selfish. But there's nothing wrong with being respectful as well as maintaining the peace. And what would I leave out? I think I would just say leaving out anything that would just cause drama and contention. Things don't have to be messy just because you're not with a person anymore. It doesn't have to go that way. It's okay to know that this is not for you. It's okay to know that a person has decided that you are not for them. And in knowing that, it's okay to walk away knowing that, wow, not only was I loved by this individual for this place and point in time, I also had an added bonus of love from their family members. So it's okay. So we can leave out contention and strife and messiness and drama. Leave all that out. When you're trying to decide, you know, do I or don't I in this friendship, since I'm no longer in a relationship with their family member, you can most definitely leave out any drama that's involved with that. Now, that doesn't mean that other people won't assume or insinuate that you're up to something. People have their own mindset. I've been in situations, even with my ex, that, you know, he felt I was just doing things to cause drama and issues. And that wasn't my vantage point. But if that's that person's truth, I can't change how they see things. So we have to be mindful that people are going to see what it is that they want to see. But if you come from a place of love and it is genuine, don't worry, God has your back. He's always going to fix things over time. Might not happen overnight, but he's definitely going to fight the battle on your behalf. And the truth always comes to light. You don't have to worry about that. So leave out the drama. All right. So that's it, guys. Those are my like it, love it, leave it tips. You know how I like to close out the show. But before I do, I want to thank everyone for coming out to the Black and Bling event. It was my first event hosting on my own. I think it was good, but also know that I can do a lot better. So I am looking forward to the couples event coming towards you all in 2023. I'm so looking forward to that. I hope you all will be a part of it. I have some great things in store that will be quite different when it comes to a date night. So I hope to see you at the 2023 Eros Meets Agape Date Night event. And then, of course, we have the Date Night app that is coming out. So I'll be telling you a lot more about that before the show closes out. I just wanted to drop that little nugget here. And with that being said, hey, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you downloaded the show. And of course, follow us on all social media platforms at Eros Meets Agape. Till next time, everyone, I'm Dr. Sadia, helping you to give and receive the love you both want and need. Stay blessed, everyone. I'll see you next time.